You know, when we get to this segment, we are highly looking forward to it. This segment has become a very big segment, and nobody does it like Take for 99 here on 99 Pod. And we get to give out a take in any sport, and we get to have a response and just go off about it and explain how we feel. And Zach, I would love to do the honors here as I put on the banner below the ticker, Take for 99. Okay, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. My take for 99 is Brown on both sides. Brown on both sides. One of my favorite albums of all time, okay? No, this is not a hip hop take for 99, okay? Is Black on Both Sides by Mos Def. Came out, ironically, in 1999. Folks, it's not 1999 anymore, clearly, right? But I think when you talk about a guy like Jaylen Brown, he has remained brown on both sides. You know, we're talking about a guy who is 2 games away from winning an NBA Finals. You got to handle business, bro. Okay? Don't make me do this take and continue with this take if you don't show up in the next game, okay? Because I'm going to retract this take and delete it on all platforms. Yes, I'm going to acknowledge greatness here, okay? So please make sure you show up, okay? Sorry about that, folks. He's 2 games away from winning NBA Finals, right? And he's played with that edge despite getting his money last offseason. I believe it was a 5-year, $303.7 million contract extension, the largest contract in the NBA. And yet he has improved on his ball handling skills. You know, he's tightened it up a little bit. You know, he's become a 3-level scorer, being able to shoot the 3 ball with confidence, being able to shoot from mid-range and attack the basket as well. You know, he's improved his game, right? And the Mavericks coach, Jason Kidd, came out and took media by storm a couple of days ago, try to play mind games a little bit. You can argue that's what people were saying when he called Jaylen Brown the best player on the team. Now, a lot of people think it's mind games, but I think Kidd is right. Whether or not he was doing it for whatever intention it was, I think he's right. He is the best player on the Celtics. Look at Tatum right now, okay? Jaylen Brown has been actively guarding Luka Doncic and holding his own, okay? And he's been scoring the basketball when he has to, okay? We know his playoffs. He won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, okay? Now, when you talk about Jaylen Brown, and I'm getting into some bigger stuff here, you know, this was the first guy I ever heard came out when he got that contract saying, I'm going to create Black Wall Street in Boston. When I heard that, I'm like, this cat is a different cat. Because normally people go out and they big up this, you know, scam that is Black Lives Matter. Oh, Black Lives Matter, that's a scam. Okay, that's a scam. Okay, but when he said, I'm going to create Black Wall Street for people that's impoverished, that look like me, I was like, man, this guy, I ain't never heard that before. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's real. Okay, and then when it came to Ice Cube, you know, in his Big 3 league that the NBA tried to blackball, by the way, he was the first ever NBA player to be active and play a game in the Big 3. I'm like, yeah, this guy's different. So Jaylen Brown is unapologetically himself and represents who he really is, you know, which some people don't want to do. They get mediated, and that's not a word, but you get the point. They get mediated when they have to be a certain person to have endorsements, when they have to change who they are, how they talk, how they dress to fit in corporate. No, Jaylen Brown is brown on both sides. And when he wins the finals, because I'm going to predict he is, we are finally going to give him his respect. Oh, he is overrated. Oh, he's in trade rumors with Durant. He's in trade rumors with Anthony Davis. He's in trade rumors for Dame. No, let's say his name. It's Jaylen Brown, and he's brown on both sides. And that's my take for 99 cents.
Yeah, Lil. So I said it earlier in the show. When I watch Jaylen Brown right now, he is just playing right now like a guy that has a clear chip on his shoulder. Everything you said, the massive contract, you know, trade rumors, being terrible last year against Miami in Game 7 with all the turnovers. And he didn't make All-NBA this year, but he's been playing great. He's probably been Boston's most consistent, best player in the playoffs. You know, I don't know if you felt the same way, but when he hit that shot in Game 1 against the Pacers, when it looked like Boston was going to lose, they're down 3, final 5 seconds. He just hits an ice-cold 3 over Pascal Siakam in the corner to give Boston, to send the game into overtime for Boston. That was really the moment I sat down and said to myself, like, all right, it might just be Boston's year, because in years past, that's never really a game that they win. And with Jaylen, too, everything you mentioned off the court, it's funny. I remember when he was in high school and he was deciding where he was going to go to college. You know, he was a top 5 recruit. All the big schools wanted him: Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas. Everyone wanted him. And he decided to go to Cal Berkeley, which is not really a school that, you know, produces NBA one and dones. And he picked it a lot for academic reasons. It was the best academic school. And I believe he grew up in Georgia. So that's a big travel, going from Georgia all the way out to the West Coast. And I even remember, like, when Boston drafted him at number 3, that was kind of a controversial pick. You know, people thought they overdrafted him. And I even remember NBA scouts saying that they were worried that he was going to, like, quit basketball and go into, you know, something bigger than that. You know, a lot of people and executives around the league were a little bit nervous about his future and his commitment to basketball. But nah, he's been great in these playoffs. He's proven Boston right with that pick. If you remember, that was the 2016 draft, where the first 2 picks were Ben Simmons going to Philly and Brandon Ingram going to the Lakers. And it's clear that Brown has really turned out to be the best player in that group. And on a different note, the unsung hero of the Celtics championship run would be King in Brooklyn, you know, making that trade for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and getting Boston a top 5 pick for back-to-back years to get them Brown and Tatum. But man, this has to be the Celtics' time. Brown has been phenomenal, and I'm curious what happens if he does end up getting Finals MVP, because he got Eastern Conference Finals MVP, well-deserved for how well he played in that series, and this would be a huge moment for him, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's why I made the take, because I think, you know, a lot of people, you know, they get NBA'd, you know, they start acting weird. You know, you see the athletes, they get fame, they get money, and you got Jimmy Butler wearing wigs. You got Jimmy Butler wearing fake extensions. You got Jimmy Butler wearing dresses. You got Jimmy Butler doing this. You got Jimmy Butler doing that. I know I'm picking on Jimmy Butler. There's so many other guys. Kyle Kuzma doing this and Kyle Kuzma doing that. And then I could go through the names. Okay, I'll be here all day. And then you get a guy like Jaylen Brown, who remains Brown. He remains himself. You know, he's smart. He's very intelligent. You know, he strives for greatness. He works on his game, and it never takes away from his game, the things that he does. So that's why this take really was to highlight those things.
Yep, we will see what Boston does, man. Pretty big game 3 coming up tomorrow. But, Lil, you all set? You ready for mine?
Yeah, the mic is yours, man.
All right, my guy. I am going to go into the NFL for my take for 99. And as we know, OTAs are in the books, and minicamp for most teams are now in full swing. They started up this week, and we've been hearing a lot of stories around these teams' camps and, you know, how certain guys are doing. And one story that I've been hearing a lot of, and I sent a video, a little clip of this guy in our chat the other day, and that's Malik Nabers with the Giants, and the fact that he's looking like an absolute monster right now. The word out of Giants camp is that no one could guard him, and this kid looks like the real deal. And I know Zay brought this up a couple weeks back for his take for 99. I wish he was here to hear this, but I told you guys in our chat, and I'm going to say it here on the air, I think the Chargers are really going to regret passing up on this guy for a long, long time. I know that Jim Harbaugh likes to build his team from the trenches up, and that's why he took Joe Alt. And that's, you know, he's a successful coach that knows what he's doing. But I got to be honest with you, Will. Like, I look around this Chargers team right now, and I just don't think their weapons around Justin Herbert are good enough. Like, who is their number 1 wide receiver? Quentin Johnston, who looked like a bust last year? Josh Palmer? Lad McConkey, who was a second-round pick? You know, he hasn't played a game yet. Who knows? But that's tough to expect him to come in right away and be the number 1 wide receiver for this team. So I think as currently constructed, this is by far and away the worst group of weapons Justin Herbert has had since coming to LA. And I know a big reason why some people are pretty high on the Chargers entering this season is because of Jim Harbaugh and the fact that in his first year in San Francisco, he took over a 5-win team, and right away, his first year, he got them to the NFC Championship game. They really could have gone to the Super Bowl. That was the Kyle Williams fumble. But that team had Patrick Willis. That team had Frank Gore. That team had Vernon Davis. That team had Michael Crabtree. That team had Navarro Bowman and Joe Staley. Like, they were an elite roster. And while I do think the Chargers this year as a team, they're going to improve because of the coaching upgrade with Harbaugh, I wouldn't put them in the same conversation as that 49ers team with Harbaugh just yet. So I'm going to propose this right now. I think the Chargers need to be the team that makes a move for Brandon Aiyuk before the season starts. After the Christian McCaffrey deal, I don't think San Francisco is going to pay Aiyuk like a Justin Jefferson or even a Jalen Waddle or a Nico Collins. You know, they have Deebo Samuel on the books, and they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy pretty soon. They also drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round from Florida, and I think that draft pick was a sign that they're ready to move on from Aiyuk sooner rather than later. And I think the Chargers need a big playmaker who could go over the middle. And with Justin Herbert, you need a guy like that in the worst way. And I just flat out don't think their wide receivers right now are good enough. Now, I know this team refused to spend a lot of money in the offseason on guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. Like, they let those guys go. But I just feel like when you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback, it's almost like that Joe Burrow quote, you know, as long as I'm here, the championship window is open. Every single season, you have a guy like Justin Herbert in his prime. You have to try to win a championship. And I think a move like this would at least signal that the Chargers are going in that direction. And if they were to make that move, I think they would be playoff bound, because I think with the current group of weapons they have right now, I just don't think the roster is there yet. I don't think they're good enough. So, yeah, my take for 99 is that I think the Chargers need to be the team that makes a move for Brandon Aiyuk. That's my plea to them before the start of the season.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. You know, it's funny because I actually thought about this being a potential topic, you know, potential trade fits for Brandon Aiyuk and who should probably trade for him ultimately the most. That really answers that idea I had in my mind. And I think that would have been a team that I would have picked if we did that debate. So I think it all aligns here perfectly. You know, them not taking Malik Nabers is obviously, time will tell what kind of effect it's going to have. You know, right now, from what I'm hearing, Malik Nabers, I'm your neighbor. Okay, this guy out here making plays. And I try not to really take too seriously, you know, OTAs and stuff like that until we really get to training camp, because the Giants fooled us last year with, you know, highlights around this time. I mean, you look on TikTok last year around this time, all you saw was the Giants looking like the Golden State Warriors, and then they come out last year and show us that garbage.
To be more specific, do you remember who was looking that
It was
good?
Jalen Hyatt.
And Darren Waller.
And Darren Waller. Yeah, exactly. And Darren Waller couldn't hold a dollar. With all due respect, he retired. I'm glad he did. Actually, I'm not. He's going to be making trash music. Come back, Darren Waller. Okay. And then you got Jalen Hyatt, you know, can't even touch the field, you know. He was making a lot of plays. They look like the Warriors around this time. So, you know, I'm a little tempted. However, I do think Malik Nabers is going to be that dude. I think Zay, in some regards, is right about the impact and the juice that he could give to that Giants offense. Something that was very reminiscent of a guy by the name of Odell Beckham Jr. in his prime. And I think he could potentially, you know, meet that right there or even top that, depending on what Daniel Jones we are going to get. I would have loved to see Malik Nabers and Justin Herbert compared to Malik Nabers and Daniel Jones. But unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh at times could be stuck in his ways. It is not 1999 anymore. And he's another guy that kind of practiced that stability and familiarity, want to continue to do things the same. It's worked for him. We'll see if it continues to work for him. But yeah, I agree with the take a lot, and I agree with the Chargers trying to make an alternative move by trading for a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. I think it's a must. You know, I think when you look at the Chargers wide receiver depth chart right now, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it against Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to cut it in that division. It's not going to cut it in the big scheme of things. They need a Brandon Aiyuk. They should be on the phone right now. It will compensate for them not drafting a guy like Malik Nabers. And then you get the offensive lineman and you get the wide receiver. I think it's a win-win. So I think they need to do that. I agree with the take.
And we've seen players like that, of that caliber, I should say, get moved right before the season started, right? Like, you remember when Khalil Mack, ironically on the Chargers, when he got traded to the Bears, that was like a week before the season started. The other one is Laramie Tunsil, big-time offensive lineman. He got traded from Miami to Houston like right before the season started. And I just don't, especially with this McCaffrey contract, like after they paid him, I just don't know how they're going to afford all of these guys. And when it comes to Aiyuk, like they literally just drafted his replacement. So all of the pieces are there. I think this is a move that makes a lot of sense for both sides. And when it comes to the Chargers, like, I'm not going to lie, I do think they're going to be an improved team under Harbaugh, just based on his coaching, going from Staley to him. But I just look at this roster, and I just don't think it's good enough right now if they want to be a playoff team or even do damage prior to that, or beyond that, I should say. The AFC is loaded. It's a loaded conference. I do think the AFC West around Kansas City is not great. Like, the Raiders have some talent, but we'll see if Luke Getsy could be able to figure out Gardner Minshew like Shane Steichen did. Denver's in a clear rebuild. Like, the door is open in that AFC West for the Chargers to really, start challenging Kansas City. And if they're serious about doing that, this would be a move they should make.
Yeah, they should. It's not enough. It's not enough talent on the roster for Justin Herbert, who has a very strong arm, could make all the throws on the field. And I understand the new identity of this team is being dominant in the trenches, running the football, and winning games that way, something that has worked for Harbaugh throughout his career. But I don't think Harbaugh can continue to fight adaptation, especially as the game progresses. The game will be here. It was here before Harbaugh, and it's going to be here after Harbaugh. So he can't play hardball with adaptation in the inevitable, which is, the NFL passing you by. So I do think he's a good coach. I think they got the coach, but they need the talent. And I think it would just be a good move to go younger. I understand a lot of people will probably throw it back to me like, yo, all right, so why didn't you sign Keenan Allen? What's the point of letting Keenan Allen go and Mike Williams go if you're going to pay a wide receiver like Brandon Aiyuk an expensive contract? But to that, I would say he's younger. Okay.
And better, right?
And better, you can argue. So, yeah, I agree. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another positive, great episode of 99 Pod. And Zach, I'm always looking forward to the next show. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, okay, so you can get that notification when we go live. And Zach, I see you on the other side, my guy.
Yes, sir. Enjoy Game 3.